Welcome to the Dirty Heifers Podcast. Soap making, small business, and so much more. Let's get dirty. Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Dirty Heifers Podcast, where soap meets sass and small business gets real. I'm Margaret, and as always, I'm joined by my favorite partners in grime, Jesse and Shauna.
Corny.
This week's episode is sponsored by the fabulous folks over at Bawana Bath & Body, your go-to for handmade luxury every day. From creamy bars to bath time indulgence, you'll definitely want to check them out at bawanabathandbody.com. Treat yourself. You deserve it. Tonight we're getting into a topic that a lot of small business owners either dream about or dread a little: wholesaling. Whether you're just getting started or trying to scale, there's a lot to unpack. But first, before we dive into dollars and distribution, it's time for everyone's favorite segment, Word of the Week. All right, so I have the Word of the Week right here. Do you want to spell that out, Shauna?
It's ARDUOUS. I feel like we need the Jeopardy music here.
I think we said that last time, right?
Did we?
Yeah.
Arduous.
Arduous. Yeah.
Round of applause.
Arduous. Okay. Oh, hold on a second. Arduous.
Yay! You're having way too fun with this. It's way too much fun. Woo! Losing words here.
Yeah. So, do you want to take a guess at it? Do you want to give a sentence?
Give me a sentence.
All right. Yeah, I'm just making this up. Right? Convincing Shauna to wholesale her limited edition goat milk macchiato swirl soap was an arduous task, especially after the great fragrance acceleration of 2023.
Margaret.
A soap that I don't even make. That's amazing.
Margaret. Instead of, eating your Wheaties, eating your spinach, did you eat a metric ton of corn this past week? Because you are corny as you know what.
Did you eat? My kids are gonna love that clip. Did you eat a metric ton of corn? I am corny.
You are right now. But okay, so I'm gonna guess it's like either complicated or outlandish.
Yeah, it's hard. It's involved in needing a lot of effort. So
that's what she said.
Number 2. There we go.
So, yeah.
Complicated, hard.
Like an arduous journey.
Yep.
See, me, I would just say that journey sucked.
All right, so do you have a redneck?
I do. The redneck word of the week is lever.
Lever?
Lever.
All right,
like a lever?
I'm thinking it's based on our past words. I'm going to guess it's just like leave her be, leave her alone.
You nailed it.
There you go.
So it would be like, if I come, let's see, if she don't hurry up and get in this truck, we're gonna leave her right there.
Okay.
I would think maybe after the arduous argument to get me to sell my soap that I don't even make, Jesse's gonna turn around and say, "Leave her,
leave her,
leave her."
Now I have to make one of those. Anyway, just kidding.
All right, so getting into wholesaling. You both wholesale?
I have.
You
I
have.
actually got my start just wholesaling.
All right, so I'll ask you first, Jesse, and then Shauna. How did you first get into wholesaling, and was it intentional, or did you just kind of fall into it?
Sorry, I had a squirrel moment. You gonna have to ask that again.
How did you first get into wholesaling? Was it intentional? Were you looking to do it? Were you actively searching out stores to be in, or did you just kind of step into it? Because I just kind of stepped into it.
Well, it was intentional, and my outlook on business from the start was to just get in as many stores as possible. So the goal right out the gate was wholesaling, and so that was my goal to start with, was to wholesale. But I just really just kind of stepped into it. It was the kind of thing where I was actually riding around town with my niece in the car, and I had a bunch of soap in a bag for some reason I can't remember, and I pulled into the pharmacy that I still use to this day, and it's one of these little hometown pharmacies that's got a gift shop, right in there with it, and I talked to the owner and struck up a deal. She was interested in carrying my soap, and she still does to this day.
Nice.
So
It's awesome.
that was my intention, was to wholesale right out the gate.
Nice. How about you, Shauna?
Um,
How did you start?
So pretty early on in the business, one of my other physician friends, who doesn't even live locally, she contacted me when I started the business. She said, "Hey, my sister has a spa. She's an esthetician. She has a spa, and your products are perfect for her store." Because she had a storefront with the spa in the back. And she's like, she's very interested in checking you out and carrying your products. And I was like, I'm not ready yet. This was really like the first few months of the business. It was like, let me get my feet under me. And it was roughly about a year into the business, I finally contacted her and said, "Hey, are you still interested in wholesaling?" So that was my first wholesale client. And we drove all the way down to Virginia to take our first bunch of products there. And then she picked out from that what she wanted to sell to begin with. The second wholesale was my esthetician here locally. And then another one that I had very briefly is one of the microbreweries here. I used their beer to make their soap. And then they had a little display with some of it in there.
Yeah, that was my first thing too. We have a meadery in town. And they were open, maybe they were open like 5 or 6 months, and John and I went in. I'm like, well, I need to go try mead, because I'd never had mead before, which it's delicious, by the way. I don't like wine, but mead, I could get down with some weed. Mead.
That was amazing.
Because it was the wine and the mead. Yep. Anyway, we had stopped in and we were trying some mead.
Sure you were.
And it was delicious. And John was talking to the guy, and we mentioned that we could make soap with the mead, and that was our first wholesale. We used their mead in soap for them.
We're gone now. That does go in with what we talked about before, 2 or 3 episodes ago, where we talked about collaborating with other local businesses. So there you go. Tying them in.
I don't even think I can leave that in.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you could, but
That has to stay in. Because it was just a complete misspoken thing. And you're the look on your face. Sheer panic. Sheer panic. Like, oh crap.
speaking about working with microbreweries or meaderies or wineries.
Or head shops.
Any of these places or coffee shop.
I actually work with a head shop too.
That's
There
what
you
she
go.
said.
ain't gonna get anything done this episode.
Speaking speaking of microbreweries and meaderies or coffee shops or whatever, that goes along with what we talked about a few episodes ago about collaborating with other local businesses. So, but anyway, I mean, for me personally, those were not very big wholesale accounts. Like working with the microbrewery or something like that.
It was very small. It was very small amounts, and it was short lived,
right?
Because they closed, but then they reopened. But I didn't pick it back up. So
right, and they didn't close because of your soap.
No, they closed because it was in a bad spot. But then our next one that we still do to this day, which was kind of bigger, we kind of stepped into that one, and not really stepped into it. John's I hope they don't listen. John's cousin called us up one day, and she goes, "You're going to get a call from a shop." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "I went in there and I said, 'Hey, do you carry that Warm and Fuzzy soapery soap?'" And the woman was like, "No, we never heard of that brand." She goes, "Oh, you better check them out on Instagram. They're fantastic." Da, 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 da. And then I got a call from the woman who was like, "Oh, we want you in our shop. People are asking for you." So
nice.
We've been in there for a few years. Yeah,
that's a tactic I hadn't thought of.
Oh yeah, it was nice. No, I hadn't thought of it either.
Be like, "I'll give you a few bars of soap. You go in here and ask for me."
A little bribery never hurt. I find that now this is just my experience with wholesale, and I've done a lot of wholesale over the past 4 or 5 years, is probably about 30% of wholesale accounts is just a one-time buy. Have y'all had the same experience? Or short-lived. Maybe not a one-time buy, but short-lived.
Well, I've only done a few. But yeah, a couple are short-lived, and then the head shop that I actually worked with, they contacted me, and because I'm in New York and weed is legal, right? So all of these places are opening, and they thought, like, wouldn't it be great to have that kind of like natural stuff and you're scented.
You're very on brand.
Yeah.
Yes.
For a head shop. I mean, with the tie-dye and the hippie vibe.
Yep, that's exactly
you
it.
are totally on brand for a head shop.
Dreamweaver, they've got, and they've got a bunch of bath bombs and all this stuff. And then I thought it was a short-lived thing because I'd never heard from them again. Because it's been about a year. And they just emailed us a couple of weeks ago saying that they apologize for not getting back to me, but they haven't gotten their license yet. They had anticipated opening over a year ago, and they're just sitting there. So they've got all this, like they had the bath bombs are no longer, it's been over a year. They're not good anymore. So they're like, "Can you remake some of this stuff for me?" Because they're getting ready to open now. So hopefully that'll be something good too.
So have you thought about, since you are in a head shop, and that might actually be a really good demographic for you, is to try to get in more head shops.
Right.
Have you thought about maybe doing CBD bath bombs?
No, I haven't.
Might be something you want to think about.
That down right now.
I was wondering the same thing, but I also wonder if there's regulations that go along with that. Because I see people in the groups doing that, but I don't know. It might be state dependent.
I would think that would be state dependent.
Yeah, probably. And since, everything is legal here anyway, I'm sure it would be.
Yeah.
I don't know. You never know because there's, weird regulations everywhere. But it's definitely on brand for me with the tie-dyed and the colors and the Dreamweaver and the songs. And
that
all
might be a...
And the bus. That might be something they're interested in, is the bus.
Exactly. Oh. Those candles.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Because there's some potheads that would walk in there and get those.
Yeah, I didn't have those, but I wasn't making those yet when I first started working with them. Good idea. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, back to your question. My first big wholesale account, she stuck around for probably a couple years. Then the shop had some huge failure with their AC, and there was a several-month-long process. They lost all their products and such, and
oh no!
finally ended up going to a different location because their landlord was terrible. And since then, there was only one wholesale order from her. So I guess it just fizzled out. But the other ones, it was just small orders and it fizzled out. And my esthetician, I was just telling Brad the other day, she has soap in her store. I think she gets hers from Fair though. But I was telling her, I was like, it's okay. She feels like she's bothering me when she starts asking me questions. I'm like, you're not bothering me.
No, absolutely
So
not.
then
Ask all the questions.
What kind of a wholesale setup do you have? Do you have like just occasional orders? Do they have a regular like repeating order? Do you do consignment? Like, what do you guys do? Is it cash?
I had a
net 30.
We actually
90?
She's just throwing out things now. We have a plugin on our website actually set up. So there's a wholesale login for those customers. So I set up an account for them. Yeah. And they can log in and they can see. You're right there.
Yeah, I've just had a moment. I'm like, I started to plug in a wholesale app on my Shopify and it just slipped my mind.
So they can log in. They have their own login. They can log in and I can set up their parameters. Like if different accounts get different deals or something, I can set up different types of wholesale accounts. Margaret's just looking at me like, what are you talking about? But anyway,
I don't think I have a plugin, but I don't think my plugin has that ability. But
so you can set different levels.
Pretty much get the same thing.
Yeah. And then they can just go in, they can see what's in stock and order whatever it is.
Yeah.
Although it is nice to have a heads up as well sometimes. But
yeah.
So do you ladies do y'all do like a minimum buy-in?
I haven't yet, but I think going forward I might.
So far, no, we haven't. Actually, yes, we have, because John deals with a couple of people that that have asked for, I want to do wholesale, and then they're like, can I get 3 bars of this and 3 bars of that, and 2 bars of this, and John's like, that's not what wholesale is, honey. So. Yes, we have a minimum, but I don't have a hard set minimum.
Yeah, I got you.
That first wholesale account, they do that. They would do like 3 or 4 bars of this and 3 or 4 bars of that, but they were ordering like hundreds of dollars at a time. So we're talking like a couple big boxes. And they were also going through the website themselves, so it's not like I have to sit there and write down like 4 bars of this and 3 bars of that. They can go and peruse to their delight at 1:00 in the morning if they want to,
right,
and get what they want.
And so neither of you do consignment.
Yeah, I did not do consignment.
What?
No,
I don't. Would you? I guess you would consider what I just finished doing might have been considered consignment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that retail space I was renting.
Yeah, the consignment and the boutique setup's kind of the same thing. I got burned horribly bad, like when I first started.
How?
And I do wholesale and I do retail, and that is it. Mm. Most of the time when I have people that call me, like businesses that call me and want to do the consignment thing, I tell them, I'm like, look, I do retail, I do wholesale only. I said, that's all I do. I said, and I explained to them,
Stop for a second. Can you tell people what consignment is in case there are people that don't know?
Absolutely. So consignment is where you put your products in a store, okay? You don't take money for them or anything. You just go put your products in a display in a store. And that store will sell the products. And typically consignments, like you only get like 30% of your product, of the value of your product back. Some stores differ.
Yeah, mine was different.
Yeah. And now that's typically the going rate in my area. Mm-hmm. Now you've also got a setup where, like in a lot of boutiques, there's a store close to me, well, not close to me, but in my county that it's a big store, and they do like the individual little stalls, like you can go in their store and rent a space, and you pay them, I think it's like $140 a month, and it's a decent sized space,
right?
So on top of you pay them $140 a month, they also take like a 20% cut.
That was more close to the setup that I had.
Yeah. And that's kind of the same setup that I had. And like I said, I got burned really bad. But I
Wow.
mean, it was at the start of COVID, but that really put a bad taste in my mouth. And I just really don't care for that setup. It just depends on what you as the business owner wants to do, because you rule your little world.
Mhm.
Me personally, I'm going to wholesale. I'm going to retail. Anything else can go kick rocks.
How did you get burned?
Okay, so I started at another store in Lucedale, and the store owner told me, said, the rent wasn't bad. It was like $80 a month, 60 or $80 a month, something like that. And I had to provide my own display. So fine, I can do that. Y'all know I'm crafty. I can build stuff. I actually ran across a pallet on the side of the road. And so, of course, I stopped and I picked the pallet up, threw it back in the truck. And I took it home. I took some scrap boards, and I built a little display that would lean up against the wall, and it had shelves. So it was pallet sized. Okay. And I had soaps. I had bath bombs. Y'all, I used to make the cute cupcake bath bombs that had the bubble frosting on the top. I used to get bougie with them.
I did that.
I did all that, set everything up, and the first month I did okay. I think I made like $60 the first month. Like I said, now this is during COVID, like everything shut down. And the second or third month, I ended up actually owing them money.
Yeah.
And so I went to go check on my product when I was in the store, and I was going to pay the store owner. My display was nowhere to be found. And all my products were on this little bitty shelf, like legit, 18 inches wide. And the little person in me come out. And I got highly upset. Turns out she took my display and put it in a storage room. I had to provide my own display. I built it and provided my own display. And then my display disappeared, and all of my products, and I had a decent amount, was on this little bitty shelf that I'm paying like $60 a month for.
Yeah.
I got burned. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
Well, what mine was, she actually showed me these would be the shelves that you would rent. And they stayed there the entire time. So I didn't get moved. But I did have months where, like, especially around Christmas, where we did great. And then we had months where I did owe them money. And she wasn't taking a big percentage. But, it was also hard because, like, this past year, things just didn't sell very well. Like, we all had low sales. She had low sales across the board,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was in there for a year, I think. And that one I came across just because one of the nurses that I used to work with who retired was working at the store part-time, and she contacted me. She said, this would be great. Now, the reason I'm not there anymore, we were considering not going back anymore just because I was having to take time to go down there and see what was still in stock. Because she works full-time too, in addition to having a store. So I had to go see what was in stock and then come back later and bring back stock in. And it was just hard for me to get there. And then she decided to not have vendors anymore because she's having a hard time with all the paperwork and like schedule changes for her and her husband. And she just decided not to carry vendors anymore because it is a lot of work for them too. If they're actually documenting everything well.
Right. It is a lot of work for them. It really is.
So how do you do your pricing?
For wholesale?
The way I do my pricing is I basically take the retail cost of my soap and I cut it in half. So my soaps retail currently for $8 a bar. I wholesale for $4 a bar. And I tell the store owners, I'm like, that way they make half of retail. Really, the store owner's the real winner in this situation because, that's $4. And that $4 that I get paid for each bar soap, my cost of product comes out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the store owner, they just basically buy it and display it and sell it.
Well,
they make a better profit.
One of the stores that I sell in sells my bars for like between $12 and $14 a bar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's getting more than I am. I'm like,
yeah.
That's fantastic.
That was one of our
Good for you.
stipulations, is that you must sell it for at least what we sell it for. And if they sell it for more, then good for them. But I feel like if they sell it for more and those people decide to look you up and they say, oh, it's cheaper from them, that could drive people towards you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
see, that's what I tell my store owners. They ask me, say, what do we need to sell this for? I tell them, say, look, start with, I said, once you buy the product, it is officially your product.
Mhm.
You can sell it for whatever you would like. I tell them, I said, I retail my soaps for $8 a bar. You can choose to go over that, but there is a little website thing on all of my soaps. They can go check and see what the pricing is on that website.
Mhm.
And then you may lose a customer there.
Yeah.
Because there's one place in another town that sold my soaps, and they were selling them while I had them listed for $6.50 a bar. That's what I would retail them for. They had them listed for $10 a bar.
Mhm.
And I went and I checked and I went and I checked, and they never sold any soap.
You got to know
and
your place.
I told them, I said, look, I was like, this soap has sat here for a year. You may want to come down on your prices. Well, we marked up the same percentage we do everything else. I'm like, well, just let them sit there then.
Yeah.
That's a big markup.
It
Yeah.
is. I mean,
Big markup.
some stores can afford to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As far as, I have a lot of thoughts about pricing. We also did the 50% for wholesale. And I know when we were at the conference, I spoke to Joanna about that. And she said, when I was in high school, I had a small little candle business. And at that time, everybody was saying you take your cost of production, which is all your materials, and your time. A lot of people don't remember that time.
No.
You got to put your time in it.
But you got to put your time in.
And pay yourself a good hourly wage. You take that, and at that time, they always said, double that for wholesale, triple it for retail. That's what they always said. So basically, it was like 30% off or something for wholesale. But when I asked her, she said, take your cost of production, multiply by 4, wholesale's half. So 4 would be your retail, wholesale would be half of that. So wholesale is double whatever you put into it.
Right.
And I was actually thinking about that the other day, and I was like, God, if I did that, I don't know if it would sell, just because when you're so much smaller, you can't get
The bulk pricing.
Right,
that kind of
exactly.
stuff. Mm-hmm.
So I think the times 4 and then halving that works a lot better when you're bigger and you're getting all that bulk pricing. And maybe when you're smaller, I don't know. It's
hard.
There's not a hard and fast rule, and I think you have to decide what's best for you. Our wholesale accounts were always 50%, and then my husband started saying going forward maybe we shouldn't be 50%. But you gotta figure that out. And then on top of that, if you're shipping your products, if you're not giving 50% and then you say, oh, you also have to pay shipping, like how many wholesale accounts you're going to
That was another thing I was going to ask you, because the places that I wholesale to are all within driving distance from me.
Right.
So I'm not shipping. I am shipping, but I'm personally shipping.
Right.
So, and shipping is expensive.
Right. Mm-hmm. So the one wholesale
for
account,
a heavy product like soap.
Right. The wholesale account that I had that was not local, they did not get free shipping. And the one time they placed an order and the free shipping thing messed up, and it was not supposed to be available for wholesale accounts.
Right.
And whoever worked at her shop got the free shipping when she placed the wholesale account. And I contacted her. I was like, hey, wholesale accounts aren't supposed to get that. She's like, I'm so sorry. Tell me what the shipping is. My assistant ordered all this stuff, and then she paid for it. Mm-hmm. But, I was also using flat rate. The large flat rate boxes are like 20-something bucks each whenever you have the commercial whatever pricing. So, and I do give them that price, the commercial pricing, not like if you take it to the post office pricing.
Some of the pros of wholesaling, right? It's consistent income.
Mm-hmm. You can sell a lot at once.
Yep. Brand exposure.
Right.
So people who don't normally see your stuff are seeing your stuff. And you got those larger orders.
Right.
Right. Because they're not, That's pretty good.
You don't make the profit margin, but you make up that profit margin in sheer quantity.
Right.
Right. And then you have packaging challenges. Like, do you know, are you retail ready? You will be with your boxes. You have to, do all that. Is it direct to consumer? Is it direct to them? Some of the places put like, they want price stickers on it and all that kind of, whatever.
That's where barcodes help.
Yes, the barcodes. That's what I was talking about. But then some of the cons, like you were talking about.
Another thing to keep in mind too is when you're doing wholesale accounts, this is where having the app comes in handy. You're not supposed to charge taxes on wholesale because they are not the end user.
Right.
And that's something I learned later on.
Well, like you guys, you have tax exempt.
Yeah, and I wasn't using that for a long time until I was like, shoot, I can be getting my supplies tax exempt. Fork and A.
So some of the cons would be lower margins. So you're not making that retail.
Yeah. You don't make the profit margin.
You're not making the big profit margin. Sometimes
you're selling
the timelines are tight.
Exactly.
Hey, I need this refilled, this refilled, this refilled. You could burn out a little bit from that too. Demanding buyers. I haven't really had any issues with that. But it could be an issue. Shop owners are a pain in the ass, like what you had.
Yes.
What else?
No, that wasn't wholesale though. That was a boutique type setting.
That was consignment.
The only wholesale issue I had once was that the wholesale account pre-sold something so that I had my Valentine's stuff up for sale, and then she started advertising Valentine's grams, and she was using the product pictures.
I remember that.
And I contacted her, was like, do you have stuff left over from last year or something? She's like, oh no, I was just going to buy whenever I found out how many I needed. And I'm like, what if I don't have it in stock? Like, they're up for sale on my site too. Like, you could sell so many and then be like, hey, I need this many, and I don't have that many. So
yeah.
And then the other problem that came from that is that because the store did move location, she somehow put the address in wrong, and I left town. I shipped her box. I said, I'm leaving town. You need to have it in by a certain point in time. And she got her order in. And then she accidentally put the wrong address on there, and it was like completely jacked up. It was like the wrong city, the wrong like nothing matched up properly. So it was going in circles in the post office, and I didn't know it. And she contacted me. She's like, hey, can you see what's going on from your end? And I was like, so I contacted my postal lady, and then it turned out the address was just completely wrong on it. And she was like, can you maybe ship some more? I was like, I don't have any more, and I'm out of town. So I think that was the last wholesale order I got from her, actually, because it was just a complete disaster.
Do either of you use Fair or Abound or any of the wholesale websites?
I have been on Fair, and I got nothing on it. Nothing.
Okay.
But I know
I've looked into it, but I didn't even sign up.
I know that, like, my esthetician, she gets stuff off of Fair. That's where she gets some of her stuff. But I haven't done it myself. I thought about it. And maybe once we get this place built and we have the workshop and we get settled, maybe I'm going to look into that.
Yeah, I can't even be any help in that area.
I'll tell you this much. On my Shopify website, to get the plug-in for Fair, it charges me $30 a month.
Nope, never mind. We'll get our own wholesale accounts. How about that?
Yeah, on my website, I have my own wholesale thing. Like, that doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's costing me something, but
I think the Fair just gives you the exposure. Like, people who are shopping for wholesale stuff, this is one like marketplace for wholesale.
It's just an extra platform.
Right.
Yeah,
it's like Etsy, but for wholesale.
For mine, you have to be actively searching it out.
Right, and I think in my situation, if I would rather, instead of paying $30 a month, my husband can schmooze like you wouldn't believe. He used to joke to me. He's like, I could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. Like, okay, that is the most bizarre comparison ever. I know, that's what I said too.
Jesse's face.
Yeah.
I mean, I have told people that my mom could sell a glass of water to a drowning man.
Yeah. Same thing. So, I told my husband
that one's a little more colorful.
once we get more settled, I would like for him to seek out accounts, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Now you also have wholesale markets you can go to. They're a little more pricing than just a regular event, but that is an option. Is if you're looking to get really just jump in feet first with hip waders on, you can do wholesale events. And you know, if you do things right and you pick the right event, you know, you could really make some good contacts that way.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it before, but you know, some companies, that's all they do is wholesale.
Exactly.
They don't retail. They don't have a website.
They'll go from show to show to show to show, and that's all they do. You know.
do you have any red flags for, you know, working with retailers?
If they only want to buy like $50 worth of soap, and I've had a lot of
That's
those.
not really wholesale.
No. To me, that's somebody just wanting to buy something on wholesale just to buy it and use it.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
For personal use, yeah.
And
That's why a general consensus with me, initial buy-in is a minimum of $200.
Yeah.
Okay.
That weeds out all of those types because they're out there.
Which would be $400 of retail product, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So not $200 retail, $200 wholesale, which is $400 retail product.
Yeah. Right. That's my number one red flag.
Right, and I think everybody has to, you know, figure out what they want their minimum to be. I think whenever you first start out doing wholesale, you hesitate to put a minimum on it because you're like wanting to make that sale.
You're just wanting to get your name out there to start with.
Right.
But once you and you're
just
get
excited to have an account.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend to anybody, even if you're first starting, have a minimum.
Yeah.
Because that will cut out so much BS.
Do either of you have a wholesale line sheet or catalog?
We did.
I do. They're actually up in the loft right now, so I can't show it to you. But they're in a like when I do the wholesale markets, I have a tub up there that's filled with bags that's got literature in it and such as that. But yeah, and actually those are all outdated.
But that's another good point is that if you do wholesale, if you do wholesale, you don't necessarily have to offer your entire product line up for wholesale.
Right.
And if
That's
you have
right.
those apps, you can actually section out certain things that are not wholesale eligible.
I do not have all of my soaps or all of my products on wholesale.
And that's actually smart. I haven't done that, but it's a good point.
I wholesale all of my bar soaps, and I wholesale the dish soaps. Just the refills. That's it. Like the sets, I mean, I have wholesaled some sets, like I do with my highest grossing shop on wholesale. I do them, but I've told them, said, look, you know, your profit margin's not going to be as much if you purchase a set, because I have to buy the ramekin, I have to buy the bamboo scrub brush, and I've got to make a profit off of that.
Right.
Now you can purchase just the refills. I said, and I'll send you a link to purchase the ramekins and the bamboo brushes, and you'll come out money ahead doing that.
Yeah,
but most businesses
package
won't
it
do
all
that.
together
Yeah.
in the nice little box with the
We do too.
Yeah, I don't, but
It's country.
But most businesses, I find, they want to just go ahead and get the set from you because that cuts out more. It cuts out the legwork for them.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, Shauna, I think we use the same ramekins.
Do we?
I think so.
I get mine off of Amazon.
Yeah, I mean I do too, but I don't know if they're there.
I get mine from Restaurant Depot.
No,
Not
I got mine from
Restaurant
Amazon.
Depot, Restaurant
Webster on Story?
Webster, yeah.
Speaking, I was going to ask earlier. So, buying off of Amazon is hard to get that tax-free exempt status, I think, unless you have a business account.
Yeah.
I have a business account, and I haven't seen how to get the tax exempt thing.
Yeah. So I just use my regular account for all the Amazon stuff.
I have a business account too, and I've noticed that when you look at things with your business account, it's the exact same price as if it's the regular account. So
Right, and you don't get the free shipping, so I just do it on my regular account.
It's just a scam.
I get free shipping, but I mean I have to order at least like $35 worth of product.
Now, do you get the tax exempt status from the Restaurant Depot or Webstaurant store?
You know what? I don't even know.
Yeah, I just thought about that when we were talking about that earlier.
That's funny because in order to have a Restaurant Depot card, you have to have an EIN number and you have to have a business.
So I'm totally looking that up.
They didn't ask for my tax exempt numbers. I'm sure they're charging us tax.
Yeah, so that's probably something to look into because that's costing you money.
Yeah.
So it's because you're using those materials to make something else that you will eventually sell with tax. Right. And I had never, what really brought my mind to it is when I started an account with Aromatic Fragrances International, and they require...
Yes, AFI.
They required all that
Jedward's
stuff.
too. Well, they don't require, but they...
Well, AFI required it from me. They said, you have to have this Pennsylvania form. And maybe it's state dependent. I don't know. But you have to have this certain tax exempt form. And then they would send me samples.
Come to think of it now, you're talking about Restaurant Depot. Most of the things we get at Restaurant Depot are not taxable. Like the oils and stuff.
It's also state dependent.
Oh, well, here in New York. But like ramekins and stuff, that would be...
Right.
That would be taxable.
But that's something like, if for people listening, if you have a business and you have an EIN, you could, and I ordered for years before I got this, Wholesale Supplies Plus, you can actually give them the stuff, and then you get that tax exempt status. Uline, I know. I don't know if you can get it from Brambleberry. I have to look into that. Because I'm pretty certain every time I order from Brambleberry, I'm paying tax.
I don't order from Brambleberry.
Yeah. I have a few things I get from them.
I have never ordered from Brambleberry.
I have a few things I get from them too.
Brambleberry is where I started. I got their beginner kits. That's how
I didn't get their beginner kits, but I got a lot of stuff from Brambleberry.
Yeah. They have some good stuff. They really do.
Name. That was who I love the yuzu.
Mm-hmm. That's the yuzu I got.
That's the one I use too.
Smells so good.
I love that one.
I had several fragrances I used from them, but anyway.
Yeah.
Now we have to look into that. Yeah. I mean, it's important. Tax exempt status.
Yes, tax exempt status is important. So, all right. So what's one thing that you wish you knew before taking on your first wholesale account?
Wish I knew what I was doing.
I think that's a given, but it sounds like I'm just going in circles, but I wished I'd have thought to do the minimum on my from the very beginning, because I got burned a few times. From folks just wanting to wholesale, like, I just want to get 10 bars and then never hear from them again. I know what they bought those 10 bars for.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I understand for them it's also a risk for them because they don't know anything about your product a lot of the time. So maybe a brand kit to get wholesale accounts.
Yes.
I don't know. Like so they can try your stuff.
Yeah.
That's actually not a bad idea. Just give them some samples.
I've seen a lot of people who recommend, some people say, walk in and just talk to people and hand them a little basket, and it doesn't even have to be full size. It could be like samples and this and that, whatever, and
give them a slip pack or something.
And then I've heard other people say, please don't do that. like the shop owners, like, please don't bring me stuff. I don't want to try everything that everybody's walking through the door with. But so you never know. It's like
that's true. But I mean, also that they get so many emails about people wanting to, start accounts with them, so it makes it hard.
Have you ever turned down a wholesale order? And besides minimums, why? Minimums. That's it, right? How about, what is a mistake that you've made or you've seen somebody else make when wholesaling?
To be honest, I've never paid attention to anybody else when they wholesale, so I just really couldn't answer that one. But
I think the only thing I've ever seen just online is I think people undercut their prices. They don't
yeah,
they don't
Yeah.
price themselves, and they don't pay
I'd
themselves.
have to agree with that. I have seen
That's a
that.
problem in general. I think, well, this is a whole nother topic that maybe we could talk about here or another time, but like the psychology of pricing too. There's a whole psychology behind it. And we've talked about that as the three of us before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Jesse, you were talking about one time, you're like, I'm getting cheaper pricing on my oils because I'm buying in bulk now. Should I come down on my price? And we were talking about how sometimes when you cut your price down, people start to think that maybe it's not as good quality. Even if it could be an amazing quality product, if you're so much cheaper than everybody else, they're going to think, that's not as good as everybody else.
I'll tell you this much. When I started out selling on Shopify, I had my soaps listed at $6 a bar. And making videos, pushing content. I noticed my sales start ticking up when I hit that $8 mark.
Yep. And it's weird. But if you price too low, people are going to think it's not good quality.
They're going to think it's cheap. You're using cheap ingredients.
Yep.
Blah, 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 whatever. But and then
look
you can
at
price yourself out too.
Exactly, you can. That there's a balance.
Don't use brand names, Jesse. We're gonna get something.
It was gonna be like big store brands, so
there you go.
They don't count because they're not real soap.
Right. So I think that's something that new makers, and I am included in that, have the hardest time with, is marking up your price. And I'm going to be honest, it took my husband telling me, no, you've got to up it a little bit from there. And even like my first wholesale account actually told me, it's like, you need to put your prices up.
Well, wholesaling is actually what drove me to raise my prices, because when you're first getting started, you don't realize, like especially me when I started out just wholesaling, not retailing. But when I started retailing, like at craft fairs and such as that, I realized that I wasn't charging enough for my soaps, because, I would charge this much wholesale, or I would retail, and it was only like $1 or $2 more than what I was wholesaling for. And I'm like, that's really not fair to the business.
Yeah, well, I think about that all the time when I see people priced at, $5-6 a bar, and I'm like, how are they?
Especially when like their first ingredients like shea butter or something like that, so it's the highest percentage oil in the product.
Right, you're not going to survive. Expensive. You're not going to survive if you're undercutting yourself. You might think that either it's lack of confidence, or you think that you're going to sell more if it's cheaper. But that's not necessarily, as we just said, it's not necessarily true. And if you're using good quality ingredients,
the perception of luxury and the perception of quality, your price tag is part of that. You got to know your worth.
I was just, I'm looking into doing solid lotion bars, and I was just looking at a brand today, and I ordered some stuff from this brand. I've been looking at them for years, and I finally just decided just to order and try. And they have these solid lotion bars. It's like 3.5 ounces. We're talking like $30-$40. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. And people pay it all day long.
My cousin called me the other day. I haven't seen her in years, but when I saw her, I gave her some body butter, right? And she has called me every single day for like 3 weeks talking about how fantastic this is, and you have no idea, and da-da-da. And what kills me is she used to be a buyer for what is the one that always had the 20% coupons? Bed Bath & Beyond?
Yeah.
She was a buyer for there. She was a buyer for Sears as well, right? She's not a buyer anymore. So I'm like, could you have any contacts? Can you get me in someone?
Yeah.
But she's like, I need to have a tub of this. How much are you charging for this? I'm like, I think it's like on the website for like $16. She's like, I pay $50 for something like this. And I'm like, yep.
Yeah. It's hard to make that leap, though.
Right. But I can't sell body butter for $50. That's
hard.
insane.
I know.
Right? You can't,
But I mean, some of it is ingredients, some of it's all this other stuff, but a lot of it is marketing. That's what most of it is.
It's marketing.
Yep.
That's where I need my most help. Anyway,
We all need help there.
how do you guys handle your reorders? Like when do you call your shop owners and say do you check in with them? Do you wait for them to call you? Do you just rely on them doing on the website?
Well, this is actually going to go back to like what I should have seen as a red flag. I've kind of spoiled the majority of my store owners where they expect me to come check on my product that they bought and put in their store, so it's really their product.
Right.
So they expect me to come in and check on them from time, and I do. But there's some stores that I have stocked that are a drive for me. They're a ways away, and it's not a place I go very frequently. And I have found a lot of those stores, they will not call you. They will just slap run out of product completely. What happened?
I've stretched my leg and hit the stand.
You went boom, 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 boom.
You were suddenly on a ship there. Now we can see your
We can-
laptop.
Yeah, now we can
you're
see
all
your
crooked.
laptop.
Verkakte.
Word of the week, fakakta.
But
That sounded like
so
Klingon.
yeah, I've kind of spoiled my store owners where they're just I'm just supposed to come and check on everything, even though they bought it and it's their product. I would say to start with, you need to set up clear guidelines. When you run low on product,
Right.
you call this number, you text this number, you go to this website. Do that, because you end up in a situation like me where you have to babysit store owners.
Yeah.
I'm
very
not saying
hands-off
that
with
in an ugly way. I mean, that probably did sound ugly, but they are. I mean, they expect me to come and stop and check, and it's hard to do when you get busy like I am.
Exactly. And I have to say that, like, when you were just starting out and you didn't have the sales you have now, that was not as hard to
You
do.
had the time.
But as you grow, you don't have the time to go do that.
Yeah, back then I had, a couple of days a week where I could just, I'm going to drive down to so-and-so and check on them and, go grab lunch while I'm down there. Now I'm sitting here going, so-and-so wants me to come have lunch with them. Do I have time? Crap, I'm going to have to call and cancel. So you don't have the time to check on stores. And 9 times out of 10, you'll text them and they'll ghost you.
Yeah. So I was saying, maybe like a call or an email you can try, but God, going in person. And that's why I had such a hard time with my boutique downtown, is that I just didn't have the time to go check on the stock and then come back, a few days later with the stock to put in there.
A lot of mine is just done through Instagram messages.
Yeah. I have a couple of stores that will send me a message through Business Suite, through Meta Business Suite, and that's perfectly fine. That's awesome. But I also have some stores that will just not.
I wonder if there's any place for an email list for wholesales, like saying, like, for your wholesale account, have an email list specifically for them where you say, hey, I have this new product, or hey, how you guys doing?
Do you have MailChimp?
Yeah, I do, but I don't.
So you can segment.
Right.
You can segment your.
I gotta figure.
Audience.
Do you know how to do that? I gotta figure out how to do that.
Yeah. I know. It's not hard at all. You can easy YouTube video.
So I would say that maybe that would be a good thing to do, is like whatever your email marketing client is, whenever you get a wholesale account, say, hey, I'm going to put you on my wholesale mailing list so I can keep you up to date with new products or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That is a good idea. I'll have to look into that. I'll look into that.
Yeah, but that would mean that I would have to not only remember to send out emails, but then additional emails. Like, I'm the non-existent email sending.
Right.
I only send out when
I was so proud of myself when I was, had downtime on call over the weekend. I was on 48-hour call over the weekend, and I had downtime. I sat there with my MailChimp, and I went through and made like emails, and I scheduled them. And I think I asked you this, Margaret, if there's a way how to like make a sale on the certain category in your website without having to go into each individual product, scheduling a sale. I can do coupons, but I was trying to schedule a sale on like beard oils or something. And I had to go through each individual.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go through each individual beard oil and schedule each one for this sale. So I have an email ready to go out like at the very end of May. Mm-hmm. For the month of June, there's this sale going on.
That's smart to just put one thing on sale. Yeah. But
right.
You can do that through coupons. You can,
I think
include
in the future,
or exclude products.
Mm-hmm. Right. But I think I need to do, because I was trying to figure out a way where it'd be an automatic discount. You can schedule sales on there, but you have to do it for each individual product, and it's kind of a pain. So I was trying to figure out a way to do like a category.
I'm pretty sure you can.
Like if I can do a sale on just all the lip balms or something, instead of each individual one. But...
I'm 100% sure you can. You're talking about on WooCommerce?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you can do it with each individual product, but I just need to do it for a whole category.
For a category. You could probably, I'm sure there is. Just gotta look at her. She looks so bored over there.
Anyway, so what I was saying is like...
It's pretty easy with Shopify.
Well, what I was going to say is that you're talking about you've scheduled all your social media for the week on Metricool, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can do the same thing. You can go on there, you can create emails, and you can schedule them. And then I think what I'm going to going forward is say, like, have an email, and I'm going to feature certain products in that email. And, oh, by the way, there's going to be a sale on those same products from here to here. Okay. And either you're going to have a coupon to go with that, or you're going to figure out how to schedule the freaking sales on WooCommerce without adding another app in.
No, it's very easy. I'm going to check in a few minutes. I'll check.
I think there might be a way I can figure it out. But anyway.
There's a coupon app. I know I have a
No,
coupon.
I don't want a coupon. I don't want it to be a coupon. I want it to be an automatic sale.
I have it's a.
Now the coupon app I have, you can have coupons that automatically apply, but you have to pay for that. I have to upgrade to get that.
I don't know which one I have. Now I have to think about it. Okay. So what advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out and wants to just dip their toe into wholesaling, but they're feeling overwhelmed?
I think I would look for a local place first.
Yes.
So you don't have to ship.
Yes.
You can go in and talk to them and maybe start out with just one.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Start out small, get a feel for it, kind of get your wholesale legs under you. And then, once you get that, branch out into another city close to you. Try not to saturate too much in one place.
Yeah.
Try to branch out a little bit. And, and I've told people, I'm like, look, cold call, or not really cold calling, but cold walking in, which is typically what I do. I never call and schedule anything. I just walk my happy butt up in there and strike up conversation.
Well, you live in the South too, though. Yeah. That's a normal thing to do there.
What I tell people is you cannot be scared to go in and talk to store owners. They cannot eat you. All they can tell you is they're not interested.
Did I make a face?
Well, you were making a face, but she's like, you can't be scared to talk to people. It's like, Margaret.
Yeah, because I was like, okay, you can't be scared to talk to people.
They can't eat you. They can't eat you.
They can't eat you, but they can
give you weird
tell
looks.
You to leave.
Not be nice.
Well, that's when you do something. Never mind. I better shut up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they're not nice, and you're like, oh, fine, I don't want to work with you anyway. Bye.
That's when you just turn around. You turn around and you do this. You turn around, you walk out the door, and you go.
Scrape your feet, apparently.
You scratch off and you leave.
I think that's comparing to like, when an animal goes to the bathroom and they scratch the dirt over it and they leave. That's what that is.
I guess you could call that doggy style.
Oh, okay. DWSS. That's what she said. Anyway. I think that's only number 3 for the podcast.
Scratch off like a dog and get on out of there.
So now I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Squirrel.
Squirrel. All right, heifers. That's a wrap on this week's episode. We hope you got some juicy insights and maybe a laugh or two as we broke down the highs, lows, and hidden truths of wholesaling. A big thank you again to our sponsor, Bawana Bath & Body. Whether you're looking to treat yourself or stock up on gifts, check them out at bawanabathandbody.com. Handmade luxury every day. You really can't go wrong. And, don't forget, next week we've got a special guest. Kitty from Dichotomy Creations is going to join us and talk about her amazing initiative called Soap Donation Center. If you've ever wondered how soap makers can give back to communities in need, you won't want to miss this one. Until next time, stay dirty, heifers. Oh, and if you liked this episode, don't forget to like, share, and leave us a review. It helps more dirty minds find our clean content. Bye, y'all.